The last day of school is supposed to be filled with joy, relief, and excitement for the summer. But for Jamie, it turned into a nightmare. She had no idea that the day would end in fear and confusion. No one ever imagined that someone could disappear without a trace. But that's exactly what happened. Jamie and her friends were in their last class of the year, counting down the minutes until the final bell rang. The classroom buzzed with excitement, everyone eager to run outside and leave school behind. But amidst the chatter, Jamie noticed something strange. Her classmate Emma wasn't there. Emma wasn't the type to skip school, especially not on the last day. Jamie thought it was odd, but she figured Emma might have left early. As the day went on, she couldn't shake the feeling that something was wrong. During the lunch break, Jamie and her friends were sitting outside when they overheard a conversation between two teachers. They were talking about Emma. She hadn't been in any of her classes that day, and no one had seen her leave. A chill ran down Jamie's spine. She decided to check Emma's locker, hoping to find some clue about where she might be. When she opened the locker, she was met with a sight that made her heart stop. Inside was Emma's backpack, her jacket, and her cell phone, all untouched. It was as if Emma had come to school but never left. Jamie ran to the principal's office, her heart pounding in her chest, and told them what she had found. The school immediately went on alert. Teachers and students searched every inch of the building, but Emma was nowhere to be found. As the hours passed, the atmosphere grew tense, fear gripping the school. By the end of the day, the police were called, but no trace of Emma was ever discovered. Jamie would later learn that strange disappearances had happened at that school before. Rumor had it that every 10 years, a student would vanish on the last day of school, never to be seen again. Emma was just another name added to the list. The final bell rang that day, but for Jamie, the sound was filled with dread. She never forgot the haunting mystery of her vanishing classmate, and every year, she feared that it might happen again. The tradition at Lincoln High was simple. On the last day of school, everyone received their yearbook. Students would spend the day signing each other's books, leaving behind memories for the summer and beyond. But in 2015, something went terribly wrong. A yearbook can hold memories, but sometimes, they can be darker than you expect. Sarah was excited to get her yearbook. She loved looking back at the photos, remembering the good times with her friends. When she picked it up that morning, everything seemed normal. The first half of the day was filled with laughter and chatter as students passed their yearbooks around for signatures. Sarah flipped through the pages, smiling at the pictures from prom and class trips. But then she turned to the last page. It wasn't blank, like it should have been. Instead, there was a photo she didn't recognize, a dark, grainy image of an empty hallway. She looked closer, her stomach twisting with unease. It was the hallway near the old gym, a part of the school that had been closed off for years. Sarah showed it to her friends, but no one knew how the photo had gotten into her yearbook. They joked about it being a prank, but Sarah couldn't shake the eerie feeling. Later that day, Sarah went to investigate. She made her way to the old gym, her heart racing as she approached the hallway. The doors were locked, but as she peered through the small window, her blood ran cold. It was the same scene from the photo, dark and empty, just as it appeared in the yearbook. Suddenly, Sarah heard footsteps behind her. She whipped around, but no one was there. Fear crept up her spine. She ran back to her classroom, but as she sat down, she noticed something even more terrifying. On the very last page of the yearbook, beneath the photo, was her name, written in shaky, faded letters. It hadn't been there before. Terrified, Sarah told her teacher, but no one believed her. They brushed it off as a joke, but Sarah knew what she saw. Over the summer, she learned that years ago, a student had gone missing in that very hallway. The photo in her yearbook was a chilling reminder of the unsolved mystery. Sarah never went back to that part of the school, and she never opened that yearbook again. The pressure of final exams can drive students to do desperate things. For Daniel, the stress of his last exam felt like the weight of the world on his shoulders. But as he sat down to take his test, he had no idea that this would be his final exam in more ways than one. Some tests can never be retaken. Daniel had always been a good student. He worked hard, kept his grades up, and stayed out of trouble. But as graduation approached, the stress of his final exams began to get to him. His last test was for his history class, and he needed to pass to graduate. He had studied for weeks, but on the morning of the exam, he felt a sense of dread he couldn't explain. When he arrived at school, everything seemed normal, but as he entered the exam room, something felt off. The room was unusually cold, and the lights flickered as he sat down. The exam papers were already on the desks, waiting for the students. Daniel glanced around, but no one else seemed to notice the strange atmosphere. As the test began, Daniel felt a chill run down his spine. The room grew colder, and he could see his breath in the air. His hand trembled as he picked up his pencil, but when he looked at his exam paper, his heart stopped. The questions weren't about history, they were about him. Where were you on the night of May 5th? Why did you leave him behind? Daniel's mind raced, trying to understand what was happening. He had no idea what these questions were referring to. As he turned the page, the questions became more sinister. Do you remember what you did? Why did you let him die? Daniel's pulse quickened. He looked around the room, but no one else seemed to notice the bizarre questions. They were all scribbling away, answering normal exam questions. Panic set in. He tried to stand up, but his legs felt like lead. The room felt like it was closing in on him. Suddenly, the door to the exam room slammed shut, and the lights flickered again. A shadow appeared at the front of the room, slowly taking shape. It was a boy, someone Daniel recognized. It was his friend, Jake, who had died in a car accident the previous year. Daniel had been driving. He had always blamed himself for Jake's death, but he never told anyone the full story. Now, Jake's ghost stood before him, staring with cold, lifeless eyes. Why did you leave me, Daniel? The words echoed in Daniel's mind as he sat frozen in fear. The other students continued writing, oblivious to what was happening. Daniel tried to scream, but no sound came out. The shadow moved closer, whispering accusations, reminding Daniel of that fateful night. By the time the exam ended, Daniel was the only one left in the room. He never spoke about what happened that day, but the guilt and fear consumed him. He passed the exam, but it didn't matter. Daniel's future was haunted by the ghost of his past, and no diploma could erase the memory of what he had done. These stories remind us that the past has a way of catching up with us, no matter how hard we try to forget it. Guilt, fear, and unresolved mysteries can haunt us when we least expect it. The moral is clear: always face your past, because running from it might lead you into darker places than you ever imagined.